Hi everyone, in this video I will tell you what is Spring Boot and why it is too popular and what problems it solves compared to Spring MVC. Before you are learning Spring Boot, this is prerequisite to you to understand what is this framework. Spring Boot is an open source framework. It means you can freely download it from internet and you can use it. You no need to pay any extra money to use. The first problem it solves auto configuration. In Spring MVC, if you want to connect any database, you have to create beans through XML tags. That complete process you have to manually take it. When it comes to Spring Boot, it's not required. Actually, if you want to connect any database in the Spring Boot, you need to add one dependency, and after that, you have to give that database configurations in application properties file. The Spring Boot it will take it from that application properties file and it will create data source object. That is one example for auto configuration. The second one is embedded server Tomcat. The server we needed because like the Spring Boot application will run inside the Tomcat server. Whenever you are hitting the backend APIs, the first request it will go to the server. If the server is running and it will go to some dispatcher servlet and handler and it will find the controller and it will process and it will send that response back to browser. This is whole thing happening from the Tomcat server. That's why we need one server to run the Spring Boot application. By default it will come Tomcat, but if you want you can change it to Jetty or some other also. And third one is starter dependencies. Let's assume now I am going to implement JWT in my Spring Boot application. If you work in Spring MVC, you have to download these JWT required jar files from Maven and you have to manually add. And here the problem is like the versioning. You should add the proper version of jars or else it won't work. That compatibility issues will come. From Spring Boot starters, we resolved this problem. Like you have to add some tags in your pom.xml. Let's assume if you want to working with JWT, you have to add those JWT dependencies in pom. Whenever after you are adding, the jar files will download from parent pom and which and all required, and it will download the compatible version jar files and production ready features. Once you deploy your application in a production server, you have to if you want to check health checks and metrics and how many beans are created. These health checks and metrics are useful when you deploy application in production. If you like this content, do like and subscribe to our channel.